Hello friends, welcome to a new topic today. In this chapter, we are going to learn about therapeutic drug monitoring and the side effects of the drug. So if you see, this therapeutic drug monitoring is done. This is done only if the plasma concentration has a good correlation with the effect and side effect of the drug. And this is done after a steady state concentration is achieved. This is done after a steady state concentration is achieved. That is after a gap of 4 to 5 half-life years. So what is the indications? We will see the indications. Therapeutic drug monitoring is done if the clinical effect is not quantified. When do you do this? This is done if the clinical effect is not quantified. That means if, for example, if there is anti-hypoglycemic drugs, oral hypoglycemic agents are present. Okay, these, when you give an oral hypoglycemic drugs, you can monitor it with the help of random blood sugar levels. And if it is anti-hypertensive drugs, can be monitored by measuring the blood pressure. So you can easily quantify the effect of these drugs based on these two parameters. So as a result, you do not require any therapeutic drug monitoring. But if you see phenytoin is used to prevent epilepsy. We can't wait till the patient gets epilepsy attacks and see the monitoring, right? We can't do monitoring for a seizure attack. So for them, you should do therapeutic drug monitoring. It is done for phenytoin. Then this therapeutic drug monitoring is done for those drugs which have low therapeutic index. So what are the drugs which have low therapeutic index? Their low therapeutic index is for lithium, theophylline, digoxin, anti-epileptics, antipsychotics, cyclosporin, tacrolimus, methotrexate. Low therapeutic index is present for lithium, theophylline, digoxin, anti-epileptics, antipsychotics, cyclosporin, tacrolimus and methotrexate. These have low therapeutic index. And for you can do therapeutic drug monitoring for them. And therapeutic drug monitoring is also done for those drugs which have variable effects. Like there are some drugs which are metabolized by acetylation. See, that acetylation is mainly by genetic variation. There are slow acetylers and there are fast acetylers. So as a result, metabolism of the drug in slow acetylers and fast acetylers will vary. So we can do therapeutic drug monitoring in them. This therapeutic drug monitoring can also be done to check the compliance of the drug. What does this checking compliance mean? That means there are some drugs, right, like antipsychotics, antidepressants, where the patient may not use them properly. The reason may be anything, but because the patient himself does not accept his illness, so they may not use the drugs properly. So in order to check the compliance also, you can do therapeutic drug monitoring. Then in order to prevent organ and fetal toxicity also, you can do therapeutic drug monitoring. Okay, like valproate. If you do valproate, then if you give valproate to a pregnant woman, then there is increased chances of neural tube defects. But in epilepsy, you should not even change the type of anti-epileptic drug, because on changing the type of anti-epileptic drug, there will be more adverse effects than continuing the same anti-epileptic drug. So in such cases, we will use therapeutic drug monitoring for valproate and we will add folic acid to it also. Then one more example is if there is Pseudomonas infection and the patient has renal failure. Then in Pseudomonas infection, to control Pseudomonas infection, we will have to give aminoglycosides. In such cases, therapeutic drug monitoring is done. Then let us now learn about the next topic here, which is about adverse drug reactions. So what are adverse drug reactions? Adverse drug reactions are an unpleasant, harmful reaction to a drug due to which we avoid using it, or we will have to, because of those unpleasant reactions, we will not use it, or we will have to decrease the dose of the drug, or we will have to stop the drug and treat the adverse drug reactions. Okay, that is adverse drug reaction. There are 4 different types of adverse drug reactions which are available. So type A. In A, we have something called as augmented response of the drug. That means it is dose dependent. For example, augmented response, that is exaggerated response of the drug. So if you see a drug which, if you give an antihypertensive at a higher dose, okay, then the BP falls off a lot more, right? Falls out, the BP decreases, it causes hypotension. So that is augmented response of the drug. Then we have type B. In B, we have bizarre reactions. These bizarre reactions are dose independent and they are not related to mechanism of action of drug. They are not related to mechanism of action at all. So these include hypersensitivity reactions of penicillin. Then we have C type of drug, which is chronic. So in C type of drug, which is for chronic, here this is dose and time dependent. This C type of drug is chronic and it is dose and time dependent. On constantly using the same drug again and again for a long amount of time, this will lead to exaggerated response, thus resulting in chronic type of adverse drug reactions. Example, steroids will cause HPA, that is hypothalamic pituitary axis suppression. Then we have D. In D, we have delayed response. This delayed response can be tardive dyskinesias, teratogenicities, carcinogenesis. All these will involve delayed response. This is time dependent. Then we have E. In E, we have something called as, this occurs at the end of the use. End of the use, that is, these occurs after stopping the use. That means these occurs in opioid withdrawal symptoms and clonidine withdrawal hypertension. So these are end of the day use. Then we have F. In F, we have failure of the drug. Example, rifampicin causes OCP failure. Rifampicin causes OCP failure, that is failure of the drug. So these are the important reactions that occur in the drug, adverse drug reactions. Right. The next is about pharmacovigilance. What is pharmacovigilance? Pharmacovigilance is the program that we do in order to detect the adverse drug reactions. These are done to detect the adverse drug reaction. There is a committee in India called as Pharmacovigilance Program in India. Was started in 2010 and this is coordinated by the National Coordination Center, which is nothing but Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission. The National Coordination Center, which is Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission in Ghaziabad. Okay, so what happens here is from all hospitals and medical colleges, the data is on adverse drug reaction is collected, and this adverse drug reaction data is reported to the this Pharmacopoeia Commission through a software called as VigiFlow software. Through this VigiFlow software, we will report the adverse drug reactions, and this data is sent to the National Coordination Center, that is Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission in Ghaziabad, and then the conclusive adverse drug reaction report is formulated. And then we have Central Drug Control Organization has been formed, and this Central Drug Control Organization will inform the company, will inform the doctors not to use the drug, and will inform the patients also not to use the drug. So this is called as pharmacovigilance, which occurs in India for controlling adverse drug reaction. Now, what is the most common cause? If you were asked one-liners, what is the most common cause of banning a drug? Hepatotoxicity is the most common cause of banning a drug. Then, what is the aim of this pharmacokinetics? The main aim of the pharmacokinetics is to maintain the drug safety. Then we have something called as CDSCO. This will inform the international Central Drug Control Organization will inform the International Pharmacovigilance Center in Sweden, that is Uppsala Monitoring Center, and these will inform the other countries. Then we have the largest drug database, adverse drug reaction database is VG-BASE, and this is based on International Pharmacovigilance Center, that is Sweden. Uppsala Monitoring Center, based on this will formulate this VG-BASE, which is the largest adverse drug reaction database. Then we have to learn few points about routes of drug administration. So in the routes of drug administration, we have systemic routes and we have local type of drug administration. So in the systemic, we can use intranasal route. We will first learn about systemic, which include intranasal route, inhalational or pulmonary route. Then we have sublingual route. Okay, then we have some more. Okay, first we will see inhalational. Inhalational, we mainly use the peptides are used. So because it is peptides are used, these will bypass the blood brain barrier and they can reach the central nervous system. So these are given because it is through inhalational route, we will have to give only the potent drugs should be given here, and it has rapid absorption in CNS, and these can be self administered. So the examples of drugs of inhalational route include desmopressin, gonadotropin gonadotropin releasing hormone agonists, calcitonin and fentanyl are the intranasal route. Then we have inhalational. In inhalational, we have systemic route and we have local action. So the drugs which have systemic action through inhalational route are, these drugs have no first pass metabolism, and as a result they have rapid absorption and effect. So the example of drug is Afrezza. This Afrezza is used for postprandial hyperglycemia, which is an inhalational drug which is having systemic effect, whereas inhalational drugs having local effects are used for bronchial asthma and COPD, where there is less systemic side effects. The examples of these drugs are beta 2 agonists, steroids, anticholinergic drugs, pseudomonas. For pneumonia, we can use tobramycin through inhalational route, and for influenza we can use zanamivir for inhalational route. Then if you see sublingual route, in the sublingual route it has rapid absorption and it has rapid effect. Even here we have no first pass metabolism. Okay, after adequate effect we can split off the drug, but there are side effects, like there can be tooth decay or tooth discoloration can occur through this route, and there is increased risk of cardiovascular side effects are also seen through the sublingual route. Here examples include nitroglycerin, nifedipine, isosorbide dinitrate, ephedrine, buprenorphine and ergotamine are the drugs which are used through sublingual route. Then we have drugs which are used through oral route. The drugs used in oral route are, these are the most common drugs, and these are the cheapest drugs and most convenient drugs and safest drugs. Okay, like most variable, they have, the drawback is they have most variable absorption and the first pass metabolism are the drawbacks of this oral drugs. So the drugs which cannot be given by oral route are, we cannot give enzymes through oral route, so we cannot give enzymes like asparginase cannot be given, and we cannot give peptides through oral route, like we cannot give octreotide peptides cannot be given. Then we cannot give monoclonal antibodies like abciximab through oral route, and proteins with large molecular weight can also be cannot be given through oral route. Then we have some drugs which are given by IV route. The drugs which are given by IV route are